Welcome to the next episode of Chat Over Tea. I am very excited about today's episode. I mean, they're all exciting, but in different ways, because we always bring somebody from a different category of life and profession. Today, I have for you a nutrition and wellness expert by the name Simon Mogano, and I'm very excited to go through this one because, guys, health is very important. Welcome to our show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, and greetings to your audience as well. I just love being here. Just with me being such a love of tea, I think we're gonna have a great conversation. Thank you so much.
Lovely, lovely. I am so excited to have you here. I mean, I've been anticipating this moment for a while now.
Yeah.
And I introduced you as a nutrition and a wellness expert. But I know that you are well traveled.
Yeah.
What were you traveling for?
I started traveling when I was about 16 years old. I think
Yes.
actually that's when I got my first flight ticket. My parents took me to the airport, which was Jan Smuts at that time. And my mom had, with tears, but a lot of faith in me, because
Yes.
she given me like about 2 months worth of coaching, how I needed to behave when I go overseas and stuff like that. But they just packed bags for me and put me out at OR Tambo, which was Jan Smuts at the time. And I was on a flight to to New Zealand, but it happened via Singapore. So I traveled because I'm from a family that does a lot of sports, from primarily more karate. My family is well known for doing karate. At the time, my parents felt that it was a good move for me because of, if you remember, I was speaking about, the past airport being a Jan Smuts. So during my time of going overseas, karate was very much segregated.
Yes.
So the bodies that were controlling karate at the time, spend more money developing other, racial groups, and not much for us. And I don't know, that was the status quo of the time, in the country. So we were always getting like the crumbs of what we need to be. And my parents believed in the, this thing in black children that we could also be world class. So they sacrificed a lot, but they were very much disciplinarian at the same time. So a lot of people, when I tell the stories of me having gone overseas, they go, okay, Jesus, maybe he's coming from a middle class family or something like that.
Yes.
We struggled just like yes, maybe my mom was a teacher at the time, my dad was a traffic officer at the time, but my trip overseas was not for free. So what my parents did was they instilled a lot of discipline in that as well. So what they did was to say, Simon, listen, for 2 years, you're gonna sell milk. I used to, most people will remember this if they know me. I grew up in Limpopo, in Polokwane, Seshego, Mutunga Peregis. So that's where I come from. So a lot of people used to see me with a wheelbarrow, with about a 60-liter, sour milk, pushing around and screaming, meleke, meleke. My friends used to laugh at me. But now that's how we were taught, in our family. So that was my first business. So I took all of that, saved up for about 2 years. So I started at about, say, 13 years of age. By the age of 16, I had enough money to go overseas. And, obviously my parents topped a little bit of that up. But
Yes.
There was trying to instill in us nothing's for free in life. So you had to work for what you wanted. And, that's how I got it. Yeah.
But why karate then?
To me, I grew up in a family where my dad was, also, he owned, dojos all over the country. So basically, if you look, I think from way in the 60s and 70s, my dad also, that was a family heritage that we got. So my dad learned his karate from people like Mr. Bucas. If you go into Polokwane and look at the history of Polokwane, you'll see that where people call Ladana now, and I think it has now become like a place where they're selling tires, in Ladana. There used to be a place where there used to be like a lot of old cars, like stored in there, and that was Mr. Bucas' dealership. And he used to sell like old cars, like 48 Chevys and all those. And my dad as well, if you look at our family as well, if you look at our family history, we're known for, old cars and stuff like that. So to me, karate was part of like, the furniture at home. So I just got plugged into that because it was the only sport that we did. And to me, what I liked about it was more like it's more of a community thing. It taught discipline. I know a lot of people say sports teaches discipline, but to me, it is not to the level that I see karate was. And I'm not saying that those that don't do karate are not disciplined, but to me, I am what I am today, the character that I have. I'm able to deal with the stress of life the way that I do. Social media pressure, I'm able to do that. I speak a lot to a lot of members of public, either online, overseas, or anywhere. Not once have I ever felt like I'm pressured to deal with the public. Yes, I'm nervous every time I go on stage and talk and stuff like that. But I find that I relate a lot better with people because of like I've developed inside of me what I call like emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
And which most people don't get that in sport. Karate teaches you to be humble. If you're a true karateka, which is what we call a true budoka, you can never see us, going out and once we've won something, we are all jumping up and down. I've got a million trophies and stuff like that. Yes, karate these days, you got what we call sport karate, which is, people run around trying to collect as many trophies as possible. You see them on social media whenever they make comments about how they've won it. Oh, I've messed up his face and stuff like that. And that is not how Budo karate is. So it's not about me trying to affirm myself over and above other people. It's actually about what we call servant leadership, which is what most corporates are looking for these days. They're looking for people that can serve people. It's about creating relationships. It's about me, and especially now, we're talking about the heritage, in South Africa. I am because of you. And that is exactly what it is. So competing and getting trophies, is part of it, but it is not the thing. We do not do karate to go and beat up somebody so that I can win trophies and show that, you see how many titles I've got. Those people that do that, I'm not criticizing them, because it's the same way that I say in life, because we're going to be talking about food later on, or diet. In life, you got people that prefer to eat meat. That's their choice. If it fulfills them, so be it. If there's another person that chooses to eat, to be vegan or vegetarian, that's their choice. So I don't like going around and say, oh, because you're vegan, there's something wrong with you. No, it's your choice. If it works for you, so be it. So guys that believe that
that's not one of the disciplines.
That's not one of exactly that. So what I'm saying is this: if in karate, so you see, there's a thing that people believe that karate is one thing. It is not. It's the same way that when you look at, say, they use the word martial art. So just because I do karate the way that I do it doesn't mean that it's the same way that the other person does. The same manner that how I cook my burger, in my house is not how the other famous brands are doing it. So we can't go around lumping everything all in one. And that's, I think, where we see the mistake, because now when other people misbehave, everybody thinks, oh, because now he's wearing a same soccer shirt, maybe that's what soccer does. No, that is how that individual in that sports behave. It is not how what the sports represents, and that's exactly what I'm trying to get to.
I saw a particular gentleman on one of your contents on social media giving you praises on the fact that you've gone through a lot before you can make it where you are today. I actually want to go through that because it is always giving me such bliss to see somebody coming from the villages to the urban areas and becoming the best they can possibly be, the better version of themselves. And I always want to put it out there that you have to go through particular hardships. So people like you are the reason why this show happens, because we want to inspire those type of people.
I think there's been a lot. I'll maybe just quote a few. One of them being, like when I started as a 16-year-old, I didn't know how my life was going to turn out to be. You can see when an example that I want to give is when people take their kids to crash for the first time. You drop them off, they're all kicking and screaming because now there's a new environment for them. With me, the same thing happens. The day that my parents left me at the airport, I did not go overseas with anybody. I was the first person in our family, after my dad, to fly out and go to a foreign land. And as a 16-year-old at the time, it was hectic. I had to navigate myself. The first time I went, if you go to Singapore airport and look at how big that airport is, at 16-year-old, at 16 years of age, my dad gave me a certain code, you don't do this, don't, always have your bag on you, don't ask anybody to hold your bag. If you need to go to the bathroom, go in with your luggage. It doesn't matter, what it is. So all those things. So it was a scary thing. It was, I was doing something for the first time, and I felt like I was walking on a rope. And I need to take it. So I was given huge responsibilities at a very young age. So that happened. I went and lived in New Zealand. I did that for months. When I came back as well, now having to come back, and that's when the issues that came. As a young teenager, I was about 17, 18 now at the time. There was a lot of challenges. You'd come in now. Remember, at first I said, the reasons why I went overseas. Now, when you come back with all the knowledge, instead of like what we see these days where people go out and do something, they do very well, they get celebrated. Instead of being celebrated, I was lambasted by the so-called recognized people. If you decide, listen, I'm not going to subject, because that's what we did. It was rebellion. We decided as a family, we're not going to be subjecting ourselves to the way that people were treated, especially during sport.
Yes.
So now I went out and I did very well. I remember when I was in New Zealand, I was interviewed on radio, on what's called a radio station called 100 More FM. So we spoke about the political situation in South Africa, and it was during the sports ban as well. And I remember the day that I decided to come back home, it was when I saw the Springboks for the first time at Athletic Park, which is one of the biggest stadiums in Wellington, New Zealand. And I think that's what was now after the sports ban. When the sports ban was lifted, I came back home, and as I came back home, instead of people receiving me well, I found a lot of our black brothers and sisters were celebrating, but the so-called authorities at the time, instead of them seeing value in what I was bringing home and how well I'd done out, no, we can't give him there's no Springbok colors. That's when people gave people Springbok colors and whatever story. To me, it was very hurtful, because now I felt like you go out overseas, being the African that I was at the time, it was very I struggled as well, blending in, having come from a society of segregation. When you go overseas and you find people that just embrace you, and there's nothing wrong with you being black, and that transition of me trying to I came from a place where I felt very small. I was made to feel very small. I used to go into stores where I couldn't be because I'm black, and the other people must be coming up first because they're white. But when you travel over and people start to treat you as you're the VIP, and that becomes it's like a shock to the system.
Yes.
So and when I came back after having sort of normalized out there, and I come back, I get reminded again, bruh, you're different, and that to me was one of the challenges. From a social point of view, that was one of it. Health, over a period of time, I tried to find work as well. When I came back in South Africa, I applied. I remember there's you'll check one of my posts as well. I came back in South Africa, I looked for work. I couldn't get employed because every time I had to show my CV, it was more like, oh, but no, we don't recognize your qualifications because now they're from overseas. And that was a problem. So we need to, that was before this NASACA came on, where they need to calibrate. I struggled. And to this day, South African companies would not employ me for that reason. So lucky for my dad as well, my dad said to me, listen, never ever put yourself under the mercy of other people.
Yes.
And that is a philosophy that we use in our family and in my house as well. So I believe that some of us were made not to blend in. We're made to be different. And you need to harness that and shine out and go and be the best that you can be.
Regardless of all the hardships that you've gone through, you've come out right. What is your principle in life?
My life principle is one, there's an opportunity in every challenge.
Yes.
I think this stems from karate as well. So we don't give up. Most people, I think life to me is more like when a woman goes into labor. All of us are pregnant with opportunities.
Yes.
But now can you imagine when a time comes for you to deliver on your dreams or on the opportunities, because there's labor pains. And remember, labor pains come a moment before we give birth.
Yeah.
They don't come before or 10 months before. It's a moment before we give birth. Now can you imagine if you're in that space and you're about to give birth to a dream, and because of labor pains you give up?
You are a nutrition and wellness expert. Tell me more about that career. I believe my question is actually, what is your take on a healthy living?
Yeah, so to me, we need to understand something. From the time that we were born, we were born well. And that is exactly how our state must be from the time that we're born up until when we die. Yes, over time, aging comes and things like that. But a state of well-being is when we take care of ourselves, slow down the aging process, because most of the issues that we have in life are lifestyle related.
Yes.
So, and I'll give an example of what I mean by lifestyle related. If you go and do research, you'll see that about 70% of the diseases or the challenges that the ailments that we have, either be osteoporosis, either be something like, let's say, type 2 diabetes, things like your obesity. Most of them have got nothing to do with our genetics, but now more to do with what we're consuming and how much of it we're consuming.
Yes.
So to me, a state of well-being is about the quality of life. So I'll give an example. You find people that are consuming things that bring a damage to the body, things that accelerate aging, the aging effect, things that do not boost our immune system. And we also need to take away this myth that people think that wellness or being healthy is about okay, I've got a problem, then I must solve it.
Yeah.
And there's other thing as well in certain communities where, especially in in African context, people tend to stigmatize people that are sort of like pursuing the health and wellness positioning.
Yeah.
And I'll give an example. If you just come up today and say, "Listen, I'm going to take a run," you'll see how many of your friends, oh, it's the healthy kind. They think that they're healthy. And they wait for you the day that you feel like, oh, I feel I'm tired, I can't do it now. Oh, but I thought you were healthy. So they stigmatize people that are trying to do something for themselves.
Yes.
And now what I'm saying is this: I would rather live a life that is free of the things that I can control, and fight those that are outside of my control. Unlike create an environment of. I'll give an example. And maybe I'm just digressing a bit, but now think of yourself as a dustbin.
Yeah.
Every day, you're putting junk into your, into yourself. What do you think, is going to come out, at the end of the day? Maybe about 2 days later, when I open the lid, it will be full of junk. It will be smelling.
Very smell.
Exactly. Yeah. Some of us, our bodies are like that. We're putting on all this junk inside, and it all comes in the name of it's pleasure. We're having fun, especially this generation that's coming up now. Very much entertained. People are just sitting down and doing nothing. We only focus on, how we look. And a lot of people would say, listen, but now it's expensive being healthy. To me, it's not true.
No.
It is not true. I'll give you an example. If you and I pop up, let's say, $30, now, $30.
Yeah.
We go to a place where they're selling, let's say, fruits and veggies. I'm telling you, we can come up with enough food to cover us for today, breakfast, lunch, and supper that we can cook. But now, when you look at junk food, $30 buys me a burger, chips, and all the other stuff. But that's all that we eat. Only giving us, let's say, satiety for now. And then later on, there's consequences. And there's nothing wrong with, I'm very gracious when I speak about, let's say, people consuming junk food. I'm not here to bash on people, but what I'm saying is this: there's a concept that I believe in. Life is about energy in, energy out. Know the amount of energy that you're consuming from the junk food, and also take effort in burning off that energy. A lot of us are just banking on calories, and then we explode. It creates inflammation, diseases, and everything else. And then we do nothing about it. So I would rather, I'm the type of person that says, if I'm going to eat 1,000 calorie meal today or over an entire day, tomorrow I'm going to burn off the 1,000. That's what I'm doing. So whatever that I put in my body, I must take out. The same concept with the dustbin. If I put in stuff in the dustbin, I need to make sure that I empty the dustbin so that it can remain clean. That's exactly the thing.
Is that regardless of how clean the food is, or is with the junk, the
it is, unfortunately, at the same time, most food that is junk is empty calories.
Yes.
So I always say we need to get to a point of understanding we must eat for purpose.
Yeah.
So a lot of us, we eat food that, it's high in carbohydrates, it's high in sugars. It gives, it helps, gets our body, insulin gets pumped up, dopamine comes up, we feel like, I feel great. And it's all about pleasure eating. But it's empty calories. It's like if you were driving a car now, and I'm saying that I'm putting fuel in your car, there's a full tank. But now that full tank, instead of like giving 10 kilometers to a liter, you're only getting 1 kilometer to a liter. And in my car, I'm getting 10 k's to a liter. Which car, which petrol is more beneficial to you? So a lot of us are consuming food that is so our bodies require calories, your proteins, your vitamins, your minerals, your fats. We need all of those things for our bodies to remain healthy. But a lot of us, what we're doing, when we eat, we don't even consider such things. I'll give you an example. The only person that, some of us as Africans eat salads and stuff like that, which is good, green food. Colorful foods. We don't eat tomatoes unless, we're somewhere at a wedding or at a funeral.
Yes.
And then most of us as well, when we say we're making salads, it's all carbohydrates. Potato salad, pasta salads, the mayonnaise and all those other things. It's more and more calories, over and above like a huge, a chunk of pap and everything else. Is there something wrong with pap? No. It is how much of it you consume.
Yes.
That's exactly that.
And what's the problem? The problem is a lot of people believe that it's very hard to be healthy, especially if you grew up in a background where meat is overly consumed and all types of junk food and everything. For them to make a shift to a healthier side becomes very hard, and that's what I hear a lot. What would you say is the problem? Is it the mindset, or is it a lot of disadvantages?
I think what I've discovered through my experience in the industry, it is that it starts with education.
Yeah.
And when you look at the people that are sending these messages about health and wellness, they've been taught from a Eurocentric point of view. I'll give you an example. when a person gets diagnosed with, let's say, type 2 diabetes, I'm sure people can vouch for this. You get told, given a list of what you should not be eating.
Yeah.
Most people don't tell you what you should be eating. Now, what you should now start eating. So they tell you no sugar, no this, no carbohydrates, no this. And when you look at, say, how us as Africans have been consuming food, is primarily, high carbohydrates and whatever thing. And not because, of anything untoward, but because that's what people can afford. Or maybe that's all that people know. But now when you leave a hospital or with a diagnosis that says, oh, no more pap, no more this, no more this, no more that. It's like, now what's left of me to eat? So they want me to starve. And people think that being healthy is starving. That's why we're thinking healthy salads, rabbit food. That's a connotation that people are having, which is not. So with me, I'm saying that we need to start approaching these things from inclusively. Because most of the books or the education that is written is more Eurocentric. You get told, when you look at, say, okay, I'm eating this, what is now healthy? When I open up and look at a salad, it's something that has to be with European connotations in it. And is that wrong? Not necessarily. It was that information was made for people, let's say, in the northern hemisphere. What is it about us Africans that we're having? Grains, things like your lentils. We're eating lentils, stampa, dinawa, and all these things. That is low GI food. That now, if I'm type 2 diabetes and I'm leaving hospital, I should be told, oh, go and eat this, go and eat that. But now with us as well, eating budinawa and all the other things, like, oh no, just sign off, I'm from the rurals. So we've been made to reject, the very same thing that is brought. I mean, I was giving an example to somebody the other day. Why is it that most of conditions like your diabetes and all the other stuff, the lifestyle issues, are only seen in the cities? If you go to the rural Limpopo in Venda, you can still find a 75, 80-year-old person going and fetching firewood and walking every day, and then they're still eating their traditionally made pap that is ground whole with no fiber removed from it. And then you eat that pap, you low GI because there's fiber. It is still rich in its nutrients. But most of us, we move from there, we come to the cities, we start consuming all this commercially available pap, porridges, and then we comfort ourselves in them saying it's been fortified. But now it's been processed. All the goodness of it is been removed. There's been bleaching put into the product to make it look very bright and everything else. And we associate ourselves with the brightness of it. That is what makes it so beautiful. And then at the end of the day, that now changes, and how we need to be. There's so much, also including, let's say, farming as well.
Yeah.
The modern way of doing farming is, removing selenium from the soil. All this phosphate that are being put into the ground, that is what's happening. And somebody say, oh, but no, yeah, this is being fortified. If we're doing farming the natural way, we would not need to fortify food. How people are bring up protein these days. So what I'm trying to highlight is that even it's hard to become healthy these days, because even those people that are saying, let me change and start being healthy and start eating all the chicken or the veggies, they're devoid of nutrition because of the way that they're being farmed. I mean, when I grew up, my dad used to have chickens as well. It took us about, say, 3 to 6 months to have a full chicken before we can slaughter it. These days it takes 6 weeks. The hens get given laying mash, which is hormones that lay the egg, and then they get put into an incubator, and then after 14 days, the eggs will hatch, and there will be chicks. They give them a growing mash. In about 4 to 6 weeks' time, you've got broilers, and that's business. Now, is there nutritional value in there? I don't know. Somebody must prove it to me. I believe there isn't.
Well, the way that it looks is a lot of people are trying to come back to the healthy lifestyles. So after this show, I believe a lot of people are going to be inquiring about you. I'm living a healthy lifestyle, but you can't know it all. You need somebody like Simon to help you out with something like that. How is your practice? Where do people find you? Where do you do your trainings and stuff? Can you just leave me with that type of information so that the viewer can know how to access you?
Yeah, it's very simple. Before they access me, they need to understand that my approach to giving advice is holistic. Yes. So I'm not going to tell you to eat healthy but without exercise. I'm not going to tell you to exercise and eat healthy without having to sleep. Yes. Sleep is very important. So wellness is about a holistic approach. So if you hate exercise, then maybe don't contact me because it is part of it. It's part of the whole thing. So movement, we need to move so that we can be able to expire some of the energy stored in the body. But very simple. They can go onto our website. It's www.kiorokarate.online. www.kyotokarate.online. And then on there, just go scroll down, at the bottom, there's, you can leave us your details there. Or, we're on Facebook and social media. It's Kyoto Karate SA. And then that's what we, can, hook us up there, and we can maybe talk and take it further.
And it will all be written on our credits. So if you think we speak very fast or too slow for you, check the credits out and you'll be able to access Simon Mogano with no hassles at all. Thank you very much for chatting over Basilur Tea with me. I hope you love the tea.
I just love the tea. And maybe in closing, tea is very, very good. Most people think, oh, okay, it's for medicinal things. One simple thing, and I will leave you with, and now that I've been speaking about birth and everything else.
Yes.
People do not know that tea comes from plants, and plants have medicinal value. Who would have known that raspberry tea, raspberry leaf tea, has been, and if you do the history and study of it, you'll see that now most people, especially people that wanted to relax their muscles or women going to labor, through the advice of their doctor, would take raspberry tea to make labor pains very easy. So that's one thing that the knowledge that when you come to visit us, we talk about everything, nutrition and wellness, and that's what we do.
Yeah, in addition to our did you know, raspberry tea is very, very important. Actually, vital to be accurate. I am signing out as your Limpopo Queen, Dezrykay. Khoshiradi.